do it. What's going on, everyone? Falcone here, live from Helping Our Music Evolve in East Nashville, Tennessee, and welcome to Falcone Fridays. Today, we got a special episode for you. We got two paisans, two Stugats in the building. I got my man Gambino with me. Gambino and Falcone. You really can't get more Italian than that, right? Better watch out. Never know what those two people do. So, Bino, thanks for joining me, man. Proper interview this time. Here are our guests. So, we are working on a song. Probably is actually playing right now in the background. It's called Paradise, right? So, what's it about? This guy is one of the best vocalists I know, and I'm going to have to bust on him just for a second today. And he didn't bless us with any vocals on this track, so that's a little disappointing. So if we had sound effects, we'd go, oh, right now. We'll do that in the future episodes. We get some sound effects and stuff. So, yeah, so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and dive into this real quick. I'm going to go ahead and put my timer on 60 minutes. You should have saw what we had to go through today to get all this stuff working. You never know what is the weakest link, and today my computer was just not working. Pro Tools actually didn't want to work on the one machine. Go figure, Pro Tools not working, right? But so I loaded a backup of a boot drive that I had on my machine, and I got Pro Tools working again. So there's a little tidbit of information for you guys. If you ever, come to computer troubles, always have a complete backup of your hard drive when it's working. So you can always go back to it. And how I do it is I'll buy a bigger drive. So I have a 1 terabyte SSD drive in my computer as my boot drive, and I took the CD-ROM drive out and I put another terabyte drive in there. So I split the internal boot drive into 2 partitions, 500 gigs apiece, and I put the new install. So I put I'm still on El Capitan on one because of Pro Tools and everything like that, and then some of my Ableton stuff only worked on Sierra, so I created a new install on that Sierra partition. So I partitioned the drive in 2. One has Sierra, and one has that fully working version of El Capitan on it. So for God forbid anything happens on the Sierra side, or I have a session that's worked with an old version of Pro Tools or plugins and this and that, I can always go back and I keep that on that same drive. So for example, today, Pro Tools wasn't working on the Sierra side, so I was just able to use that other partition as a startup drive, and I was able to load El Capitan when it was working, and everything just works. So, yeah. And we actually ran into that issue here at home studios as well. It's a public facility, so we have a lot of people using it, and people download and delete stuff, and something broke on the one version of the boot drive that we had here, and so I made a boot drive on an external hard drive that said, okay, if anything ever goes wrong, this is the version when it was perfectly working, and all we had to do was load that up, and we can still work and not be down. So just some geek stuff for you guys to use in your computer worlds. They're not as scary as you may think. It's just good practice. These things. All right, so that's my pitch today for proper file backups. Because you never want to lose a hard drive. Because I remember the first time. This was like before. It's like 10 years ago or so. I had this old USB 2 drive, and it just started clicking. Got the click of death, and I lost like all the sessions I did in college, and that was just such a bummer because I did this awesome album with my buddy Rusty J, and I don't have any of that stuff. Only have it on DVD backups, and then even that is not like the full final session. So always back up your stuff in on 3 different places, and now even the cloud because it's so cheap to do it. So I'll have one physically on you, and then you have one at your house, and then another one completely at a different location, and then one on the drive or on the cloud. Because think about it, like if something happens at your house and all your backups are at your house, there goes your backups. If they're all on you and something happens, someone steals your laptop bag or it breaks or it drops, then there goes all your files too. So having it in a random location, a girlfriend's house, best friend's house, mom and dad's house, is a great idea, and also backing it up to the cloud so it never goes anywhere. So, all right, I'm done. So we got. All right, so I'm just gonna start the process of what I do. Got it. We got a kick drum. Did I hide it? Oh, that must be this that I accidentally hid. There we go. All right, so let's go ahead and get these drums going to their own bus here. busting all my kicks or all my snare drums to a bus first, and then I'm gonna send a parallel track out to that. And then I'm gonna switch this to 2122, and then go to 2122. Okay, so. More bus. Alright, just send up my master chain now so I can mix into it. Cool. So I got that all set up. So I'm going to start with these drums, get the kick cracking real quick. I'm just trying to get it to bang out these speakers right here. This is before. And this is after. Pretty good samples, got some good bass in it. So I'm gonna go to my master real quick. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Check 1 2, check 1 2. We're back. Sorry about that, y'all. My computer died. I forgot to plug it in. So we're back though. Hopefully you should hear us. I sound like a fool. I want to try to carve out this bass a little bit. I really want to focus on the sub bass, like 30 hertz. So I want to go into my like geek world real quick and try to carve this out. I might see, hold on. See, I'm going to send this to the parallel track, and I'm going to add this in. So it gets to still get the full signal of the bass, and then I'll get this low, super low bass. So I'm going to send this pre-fader so I can hear it real quick. And I'm going to actually, what I'm going to do before it is I'm gonna drive the input of this with some harmonic distortion that I'll use with the camel crusher here, and then filter all that out. So I mean that's without it. This with it. So let's get that original sound back in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here to our original, and I'm going to put this back up, and I'm going to filter out the low end here. To 79 hertz. Well, I can't do that because then I won't get the bass. So hold on, let me think how I actually want to do this. So actually what I'm going to have to do is duplicate this track here. I'm still in my Ableton workflow, so bear with me there. So I'm just going to send this over here, and then I'm not going to send it from this track. I'm just going to filter out this one. And I'm actually going to just send it directly to the bus. So I'm not actually sending it. It's just going to go directly there and not go out to the main bus. So then I can filter this one out. So we still have our super low. Killing it, right? There we go. That's evening it out a little bit because I want that really, really low kind of dub sound. Get these drums back in. Come on. I'm going to move this C6 now to the main bass track with the sidechain. Back to our original bass track here, and I'm going to do a little EQ here, and oh, that's not the right one. And try to carve out a little bit in the mid-range. Okay, let's get these. That sounds okay. Let's get this snare drum now. Find our hi-hats real quick, which are here. Clean up the hat a little bit. Good. Let's set up a reverb track real quick. Got a little reverb on the snare here. these acoustics. So you can hear there, he's kind of hitting the guitar a little harder at sometimes, and you can hear the low end of the guitar is actually compressing, triggering the compressor more than when he strums high. So listen, on those first two, compared to that third one. See how it's kind of triggering the compressor differently. So what we'll do is we'll roll off some of that low end so it does not trigger the compressor like that, and we can get a more smoother compression, because I like how it sounds when it's not hitting it so hard. So I'm gonna try to. So it looks like it's only one frequency. So I looked at my scope. So then I'll go to an F6 here. And then I'm going to keep this plugin open here so I can see what's going on here. Gonna go. So that's what I want to. So right there. Sounds pretty good. So hopefully you guys could hear the difference there. So I want to bypass the two plugins, the F6, and have it just have the 1176 on it. See how it's smoother? So now what I'll do after that is add another F6 here and now tame that top end, because now we got the bottom end under control, but that top end's still kind of coming out a little bit. So right there, you hear it? Right there, so. Somewhere in that section, so. All right, so I'm going to undo these 3 plugins and listen to it before. Right, now this is with it on. So that sounded good. So let's balance that out a little bit. So what I'm doing now is I need to get a whole perspective because I like where the bass is sitting. So now I'm going to build it from the bottom up and just bring in the elements so that the bass is the main feature here and everything else is around it. We're going to build it around it. Turn my speakers up real quick. Now look at the woofers real quick. For y'all, I talk about this a lot. So you can't hear 30 hertz. You sure dams can see it. Watch how it looks like the woofer's moving really, really slow. You see that? Right? You can see where the punch comes through. If I can mute the kick. Badass, right? Cool. I'm actually going to go here on my drum bus and I'm going to put a little F6 on it to tame some of those lower frequencies. Right here is what I want to. And like the cycle of a 40 hertz sine wave is about 25 milliseconds, I guess, is what they say. So if you set your attack time to that, then that's going to catch 40 hertz. Okay, so what else we got? that double? Panny? That might be the same signal. Let's find out by flipping the what, ladies and gentlemen? Wrong answer. You flip the polarity to change the phase. That's an audio geek thing right there. If you said phase, hey, so I flipped the phase on my kick drum in the room full of audio engineers, you'd probably get booed out of the place. They love to bust on people for that one. It's polarity. You flip the polarity to change the phase. So that's the same signal. So I flip the polarity. And it disappears. That means it's the same signal, so we don't need to have both of these at the same time. So that's probably happened when you bounce stuff out of Logic, and if you had it going to a group, then sometimes it bounces twice, and the original. So let's see if we can. Let's put on a little bit of this guy here on this. I'm gonna put on. Dimension expander to kind of give some width to it. All right, cool. And then I'm gonna use a stereo imager here. So what that does, it adds small amounts of delay and some other weird psychoacoustic stuff. So what I'm going to do now is then when I do that, when I add delay or I add doubles and I have multiple instruments or multiple sounds, I like to then play with the stereo image. So in concept of what that means, so if you're painting a picture of left to right, and then you have phantom center, which is your mono signal. If you put your stuff in mono, you'll have everything will be in the center. So then you'll start to hear frequency-wise. When I mix, a lot of times I go in mono and I'll start from the bottom up. And I'm trying to create basically like a tunnel or a column, right, that goes right down the center in all frequencies. So all frequencies are equally represented from the top to the bottom, right? So if at any times, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but if you drive in the car and you're listening to the radio station, sometimes it'll be in stereo and then all of a sudden it'll sound like everything disappears for a second and then it'll come back and it's like, oh, there's the song. That's because sometimes when you're driving, radio is broadcast in mono, and depending on where you are in your radio or car's getting the frequencies, it'll go in and out of stereo. So you got to make sure everything is there frequency-wise in mono, so just in case your song makes it to the radio. It's less important nowadays, but still something, a good practice. So you want to get all the frequencies from the bottom to the top to be equally represented. So what I do is then I'll on like guitars or vocals or even the main mix when I do stem mastering and stuff, I'll put certain frequency ranges dead in the middle, right? So like for example here with this acoustic. No, let me solo safe my stuff here. I could solo bands, right? Not much going on in for 140 hertz, right? I usually like to take anything from 100 and below and make it dead mono. Again, that's so we're building a cake, so it's all um starting from the sorry. I like just like ADD all day. Like I get text messages on my phone and my computer, and I was just looking at a computer, and my little notification popped up, and I totally lost my train of thought. But so I want it to be mono because I want my bass to always be there. And then kind of like the bottom of the guitar, right? I can experiment with making that a little bit more mono or spreading it out a little bit and just time's up. But so I'll just finish this thought here. Maybe spread it out a little bit. But maybe I want the middle of my guitar, which is, you know, all that stuff. Spread that out a little bit. Right? But then I'll go back and say, okay, let's do that again. So I spread everything out. First, I put the dimension expander to actually give it some stereo presence. And then I use the isotope imager here to spread everything out, put the low end in the middle, and now I can go back and say, okay, where is the main part of that guitar, right? I would say somewhere like that, maybe a little lower. And then what I could do is I'll then take that and I'll make that more mono. Right? So then when you fold it down in mono, that section from 900 or 1K to 2.7K will pretty much always be in the middle because I spread it out and then I took that frequency range and brought it back in just where the main part of it is. And then this concept applies to vocals too. So think about it with vocals. So I just got done mastering this band of Logan's. It's called EverSōl. And I got to do stem mastering in it. So they got me this killer mix track, and I was able to enhance it. So what I did was I took the vocal and I did some stereo imaging stuff, and I did a lot amongst the instruments. But then I made a chunk. I took one of the part of the vocals because it was mainly a one vocal. There wasn't a lot of doubles and like pop music and stuff is. So I was able to spread it out, making it appear larger. But then I took the meat of the vocal from like 600 to 1.8K and I made it dead mono. And that when you really listen, you get into a sweet spot, or you listen into headphones and you put yourself like in your mind, you can literally see the vocal dead in the middle and everything else is around it. So like experiment with creating a strong mono image, basically. So get everything so it's not overlapping in frequency wise, but they're equally represented top to bottom. Get that in there, and then you can start spreading things out around that chunk, and it'll make it such a more of a perceived loudness and depth to the song. It'll sound like you're inside of it versus kind of just listening to a flat picture. So that's a little, intense theory there. But anyway, thank you so much, Gambino, for hanging out. Your songs are awesome as always. Everyone, when you see Gambino, tell his ass to get in the studio and to give us some music because he's sitting on a bunch of it. So he's on it. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Falcone here from Helping Our Music Evolve in East Nashville, Tennessee. Thanks a lot. Have a good weekend. See you next time.